Hello everyone, I'm Sir TJ and I'm one of Zuitt's IT instructors. For today's video, tuturuan ko kayo ng 5 HTML tricks and tips na dapat nyong malaman as beginners sa web development. As an IT instructor sa Zuitt, ito yung basic tips na masishare ko sa inyo na sigurado akong makakatulong sa inyo to jumpstart your knowledge at coding. Ready na ba kayo? Okay, so without further ado, let's start with the first one. Ano nga po ba ang isang comment? Well, comments in the context of HTML is a note or a piece of code that is not displayed on the web page. So sa pamamagitan po ng isang comment, pwede po kayo magdagdag ng mga notes sa inyong HTML file na hindi po kayo mag-worry na mai-display accidentally sa inyong web page. And to be able to do that, to be able to add a comment in your HTML file, we use Ctrl plus Shift plus slash for our Windows users. For our Mac users, that is Command plus Shift plus slash, lalo na dito sa ating Sublime Text. Okay, so ito pong in-add natin na note dito, itong mga comments natin na ito. Okay, we have already saved our file. Hindi dapat to ma-display dun sa web page natin. So bisitahin natin ngayon yung web page natin. Let's refresh to update. Ayan, so dapat po yung ating headings lang at yung paragraph ang makikita. Pero yung comments natin, hindi po. So, comments are a best practice, especially allows us to add notes within our file para po, number one, maging indicator kung nasa na kayo within your HTML file, because believe it or not, some HTML files may go up to more than 300 lines. At syempre, habang humahaba yan, lalong dumadami yung nakalagay, lalong dumadami yung nakasulat na syntax. Mahirap ngayon hanapin kung nasan ka na dun sa HTML file mo. Si comment natin is to be an indicator kung saan nagsisimula at kung saan natatapos ang isang part ng page. Para saan ito? Yan. Dahil po, kapag tayo ay nagko-code or gumagawa ng ating HTML files, importante, lalo po sa mga tags na may partner na closing tag, dapat po hindi natin sila mapaghiwalay. Dapat magkasama sila. Kung may opening tag, dapat may closing tag. Pwede rin po natin gamitin si comment na maging indication kung para saan po yung isang part ng page. So halimbawa nito, this part is an introduction to my profile. So yan po ang ating comment at kung bakit tayo nag-add ng comment sa isang HTML file. So what is inline styling? Inline styling is being able to add design or style to your elements within your HTML file itself and having to do it element by element. To be able to do that, we add our style attribute dito sa ating opening tag. Then we add the properties that we want to update for our element. So nilagyan natin ng height na 500 pixels si section, width 800 pixels, and then automatic margins on the left and the right side. Pati na rin po background color na light gray. At kung titignan natin yung output niyan, ayun. So pwede naman pala tayong makapag-add ng design within the HTML file. However, there are a lot of caveats. There are a lot of reasons why we have to avoid and why we can avoid inline styling. Una sa lahat, imagine if you have a very long HTML file and you're going to have to add style to each and every element. Ang dami nun. Another thing is it makes your HTML file longer. It makes your HTML code bulkier. Kung titignan po ninyo, nag-add lang ako ng height, width, margin, at background color dun sa element, napakahaba na nung HTML opening tag, nung section opening tag ko. Pakita natin dito sa ating H1. Magdagdag tayo ng inline style sa kanya. Font size, 50 pixels. Let's add color, which is steel blue. Then let's add a font family. So, ito pa lang po. Tatlo pa lang pong attributes o tatlong pa lang pong properties ng element yung in-update natin, yung kanyang size, yung kanyang color, at yung kanyang font. Pero, parang ang haba-haba na niya. Add natin Calibri. And then sans serif. Save our file. Yun. So, nakapag-style tayo with inline styling. However, pansinin nyo na ang haba-haba na ngayon ng ating HTML opening tag, ng ating opening tags for the H1. At paano pag gusto ko pong magdagdag pa? Paano kung gusto ko siyang i-center at gusto kong magdagdag ng space sa ilalim ng H1? So, idadagdag ko po yan. Text align, center. Margin bottom. Lagyan natin 50 pixels. Okay? At kung titignan ninyo, napakahaba na niya. Save ko siya. Let's go to our output. Okay. So, na-update nga po yung design pero napakahaba na po ng code ninyo and napaka-bulky na po ng mga tags natin. So, why does this matter? Why do we have to avoid inline styling? Una sa lahat, especially for us, beginners. How can it help beginners? Okay, it avoids and lessens HTML coding mistakes. Okay, because habang humahaba, habang dumadami at nagiging komplikado yung HTML code ninyo, mas lalong nagiging prone po yan sa error. Number 2, it lets you focus on the content of your HTML web page because styling should be done separately. Styling and design should be done separately in what we call a CSS file. HTML is made to be able to feature and display the contents of your web page. Designs and styling should be done in a separate CSS file. So it's much more advisable and much more code readable if you add your designs in a separate CSS file instead of having to stick with the old way of inline styling. It is best to use BR or break appropriately. But first of all, let's start with ano po ba yung BR or break? What is BR? BR is a tag that allows us to break the line in our web page or in our text. So for example nito, maglagay ako ng BR dito. Okay? Silipin natin yung output. So dapat po bumaba yung ating text because we added a break to the line. Now, is it wrong to use BR? No. It is not wrong to use BR. But what is the common mistake with BR, or what is a beginner's common mistake with BR or break? It's that we have to use it appropriately. However, beginners usually add BR to add space to their elements quickly or nang mabilisan. So for example, gusto ko pong mag-add palalo ng space na lumayo po yung aking text from our H4. So sometimes a quick solution is to add more BR. Add na lang ako ng mas maraming BR. And let's take a look at our output. And there we go. I've added the space much quickly. However, what is the disadvantage to this? Now, the numerous disadvantage to this, first of all, is that nagiging bulky ngayon yung code natin. humahaba siya unnecessarily at nagle-lessen yung code readability. Because instead of being able to add your text inside another element called paragraph so that users will recognize that this text is a paragraph, instead po, no, you just added the text and added BR to add spacing. Another thing about this is the ability to add the appropriate space is extremely limited with BR. Kasi si BR po is an inline element. Therefore, you cannot add a margin at the top and the bottom of this element. Hindi po kayo pwedeng mag-add ng space sa top and bottom ni BR even with the use of CSS. So, ano po ang pwede nating solution instead of using a BR? Let's use a paragraph element. What is a paragraph element po? A paragraph element is a container of text. Container po siya ng text that always start on a new line. So, why use paragraph over BR? When creating text, it is preferable to use paragraph over break because with a paragraph tag, you can contain your text inside a container, making it more readable kasi mas makikita ng ibang tao na paragraph po yun. And you can add spaces accordingly and appropriately. So, whereas with the BR, sa break natin, you can only break the line. So, instead of using BRs here for BRs, let's instead use our paragraph element. Ilagay natin sa paragraph element yung ating text. Paragraph element, dapat po ay gumamit tayo ng P tag. Let's save our file. Check natin muna yung output. Okay, so naibalik na natin siya, nailagay na natin siya. However, yung text natin sa isang container, which is a paragraph element. Now, ang pwede natin gawin ngayon is go to our index.css. Then, let's target our paragraph element and add the appropriate margin instead, no? Mag-add tayo ng appropriate na space instead. Let's say 50 pixels at the top of your paragraph. Then let's go back to our output. As you can see, I was able to add space at the top of my element, of my paragraph element. And another good thing about this is kontrolado ko kung gaano karaming space yung na-add ko. I could make the space between these two elements really big, or I can make it even smaller. And in fact, another good thing about this is dahil nasa loob na po ng isang element yung text natin, I could much more manageably design our paragraph. So, pwede ko ngayon lagyan niya ng text align, center. Baguhin ko na rin yung kanyang font family. Gawin ko siyang Arial, sans serif. Ngayon, silipin natin yung output. So, ngayon, na-center ko pa yung text ko aside from just adding space here at the top of my element. So, that is the reason why it is much more preferable to just use a paragraph element for your text instead of having to add BR. So, why are headings important? Headings help users and search engines to read and understand text. Headings define which parts of your content are important and show how they're interconnected. How to use headings appropriately? Paano po ba natin gamitin ang mga headings? Because while we are in HTML, we did understand and we know that the headings are used for titles and used to attract users to our content. So, how can we use headings effectively and appropriately? First of all, we should understand that there are 6 sizes to headings, each one being the biggest, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6 being the smallest. And the sizes of each of these headings represent the degree of importance to the text and the following paragraph. Now, let's try to go back to our previous output. We could see here that yung ating yung ating title for John Doe, full stack web developer, is almost the same size as our text. So, which means it's given less degree of importance. So, kailangan natin lakihan to ng konti para hindi siya ma-overpower nung ating paragraph. So, let's try to use a much larger heading. Gawin natin siyang H2 at least para mas kapansin-pansin, but not bigger than our H1. Kasi ang pinaka-importante dito is ma-introduce natin yung user. So, dapat hindi natin ma-overpower naman yung ating H1. So, now let's refresh our output. Ayan. So, now ngayon, mas malaki na siya. Much more prominent at mas nakikita bago pa yung ating paragraph element. So, let's go back to our index CSS. I-center natin ngayon yung text din na yan. Okay, so let's target H2. Yan. So, dapat po, may center na natin siya. So, this is the importance of headings to be able to use them by degree of importance. So why should I close my HTML tags? Not closing tags can lead to browser incompatibilities and improperly rendered pages. Ngayon, meron tayo ngayon dito sa ating page na isang H1 at isang H2. However, the H2, hindi po natin siya nasarap properly. Meaning, wala po tayo nung closing tag niya. Kung ang isa pong pang element ay walang closing tag, hindi na po ba siya maipapakita sa page? Maipapakita pa rin po. So, tignan natin ngayon yung output. Ayan. So, dapat po, yung H2 natin, nandito pa rin. So, bakit nga ba natin kailangan i-close yung tags kung gumagana naman pala kahit hindi siya naka-close? The problem with that is, maapektuhan po yung mga susunod na elements. Halimbawa na lang, itong paragraph tag natin. So, gawa tayo ng paragraph dito. Hi, I'm John Doe. I am a full stack web developer. Now, we should expect na since paragraph text lang to, dapat hindi to naka-bold at dapat siya ay nasa default font size natin. Silipin natin ngayon kung paano naka-apekto yung hindi pag-close ng ating H2. Refresh the page. And there we have it. Yung atin ngayong paragraph tag is just as big as our H2 and it's also bolded out like an H2. So the effect of your H2 is spilled over the next element kasi hindi po siya naka-close. So when you have tags that have opening tags, you have to close them. Especially tags po na may text content katulad ni H2, paragraph, H1. Yung mga tags po natin na may content, na may laman na text content or pwedeng lagyan ng text content, dapat po ay kino-close sila. Why do I make the distinction of that? Because meron din po tayong tinatawag na self-closing tags. Self-closing tags in HTML are the type of HTML tags that need not to be closed manually by its closing tag, which means there is no separate closing tag for it, such as /h2 or / the closing tag. Okay? So, for example na lang po ni image tag. Si image tag po is used to display a picture as a content. And as you can see, as I'm using my image tag, wala po itong text content. Picture lang talaga yung display nito. Wala tayong nilalagay na text dito. Okay? And then, /images, let's provide the URL to our picture, profile.jpg. So as you can see, I did not add a closing tag and this should still work. Let's go to our output and I should be able to show my image with a tag that is not closed. So why do we have to learn this? How can it help beginners? Not closing tags properly lead to improperly rendered pages. And okay, so nakita nyo naman, naapektuhan po yung ibang parts ng page ninyo. What you should also note is that, especially in HTML, not closing tags is one of the most common mistakes. Ito po yung isa po sa pinaka-common na mistake, pinaka-common na error. And as you go along, as you learn along and develop your skills in HTML, you will learn how to avoid this instinctively. And let's connect this to one of our first steps kanina, yung ating comments. Because as you add a comments, makikita mo ngayon saan nagsisimula yung inyong tag, saan nagtatapos. Which allows you to see kung meron ba siya talagang closing tag at kung na-close mo yung element mo. Maayusin natin ng konti si image. Targetin natin siya by CSS. Palitin natin ng konti ng ating picture. Lagyan natin ng height. Gawin natin 400 pixels. Gawin natin width 400 pixels then. Then silipin natin ngayon sa output. Dapat lumiit na siya. I think masyado pa siyang malaki. Gawin natin siya 200 by 200. Dapat lumiit na siya. And we had just the reason why we need to close our HTML tags. And we finally also are able to identify that there are self-closing tags para malaman natin kung kailan at kung kailan hindi kailangan mag-close ng tag. And that's our 5 HTML beginner tips and tricks. I hope marami kayong natutunan and mas marami pa kayong matututunan with Zuitt. So if you're interested to check our curriculum, schedules, and other details, please go to zuitt.co to register and book a live consultation with our career advisors. If you find this video helpful, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, comment below kung anong topics pa ang gusto nyong ma-discuss natin in the next videos. Again, this is Sir TJ and thank you for watching.